So I have the 10 best questions that were, I'm sure, scientifically chosen from all the questions that everybody asked. And thank you for asking such intelligent, sarcastic questions. I expected nothing less of Reddit. I guess I'll just dive into it. Number 1, from user Suck My Ball. And I have to say thank you, sir, I assume sir, for not making that a plural, because then it would have been very awkward to say. But suck my ball is much easier to enunciate. Your question, Suck My Ball, is if you could have any acting job you wanted, what would your dream gig be? That's a very good question. So it's an interesting story to get, and I'm pretty long-winded. When I bought my Kindle, or my dad actually bought me my Kindle for Christmas last year, I discovered the beauty of a certain genre of book. I read every single fantasy novel there is, and most science fiction novels, but I never read any romance novels not because I didn't want to read them, because it is girl porn, but I actually wasn't too embarrassed to buy them. All right, I mean, it's a little awkward, all the oily chests and tartan plaid covered men. So I never bought them, and I never read them until I got my Kindle. And then you could just wirelessly buy anything from anywhere, and nobody knows what the cover is. So you can lie and say, hey, I'm reading War and Peace, unless somebody looks over your shoulder and sees some kind of burning loins, which actually happened on the set of My Boys when I was reading. Anyway, it's a long story. So basically, I guess my dream job would be to be in a historical romance sort of corset drama. They don't really make a lot of those, but those are the kind of romance novels I actually gravitated toward most, because I like ladies in corsets and men in cummerbunds and anyway, so that would be my dream job, to do one of those Merchant Ivory but / trashy Merchant Ivory things. The problem with those movies is that in those books is that you're over 24 and you're a spinster, which is kind of demoralizing for me. I'm a little older than that. Let's not go into that. Okay, so thank you, Suck My Ball. That's a great, awesome question. I hope that was a good answer for you. And I will not suck your ball. Okay. Number 2, J. Carlson with K. You're in a desert, walking alone in the sand, when all of a sudden you look down and see a tortoise. It's crawling toward you. You reach down and you flip the tortoise over on its back. The tortoise lays on its back, its belly baking in the hot sun, beating its legs, trying to turn itself over, but it can't. Not without your help, but you are not helping. Why is that, Felicia? Why? Why would you ask me that, Jay Carlson? I would not. Alright, sorry. That tortoise would not be turned over by my hand unless I was in a fantasy world where I needed to use him for a spell to open a secret wormhole to an oasis. And that would be my answer to that. I don't. I gotta take a minute. Hey, I'm back. Okay. Number 3. El Mucho Prez. Given the success of low-budget projects like Dr. Horrible and the Guild, it appears that money, particularly equipment costs, are becoming less of a barrier to entry for aspiring filmmakers. That's true. What do you consider to be the new leading challenges in filmmaking when financial backing doesn't have to be the defining factor? Yeah, it's a really good question. Yes, as I'm sure anybody who's a filmmaker out there will know that the camera costs are getting so incredibly low. Like the Canon 5D and 7D are, just very low priced, and just you can shoot a professional looking film on them very easily. And the other stuff that you need, like sound equipment, lighting, and just general film know-how, using stuff around you and being able to shoot on a low budget is much easier now. I think that the new challenge is not that it's free, but it's much lower cost to make a film now. And I think the biggest challenge now would be what do you do once you've made something? I think the internet has definitely evened the playing field to a great extent, so that you can find an audience. The potential for finding an audience is there. But a lot of people who jump into web series or releasing stuff on the web particularly get really frustrated because they're like, well, I have like 20 views on my show, and I put all this work into it, and where's my audience? Well, I like to say to people that, the Guild was not just successful because, it's not successful just because we have a gamer audience, or just because I was in the Joss Whedon verse. Those things definitely helped to get an audience to the show, but there was, all day, every day work on my part and my producer's part and some of the actors' part to get the word out there, because we never have really had to buy advertising or things. The most we ever spend on the show as far as like marketing or advertising is like buying booze at conventions to meet our fans. So it's definitely not a traditional model, and I don't think a traditional model works on the web because the audience is so much more savvy and also like more fragmented. So I would just say that 90% of your work is going to be after you put something into the can, and as far as like doing web stuff, the more you can target to a specific audience, the better to get the word out, because you can really think like an audience member. Like when I sat down to do the Guild, it was like I thought, where is somebody who's going to enjoy my show, and where are they on the internet today, and what kind of person are they, and if I was trying to find my show, how would I hear about it? And I generally just thought like from an audience point of view, because I think that trying to force consumer behavior on the internet is just, it's kind of like herding cats in a sense. But if you if you really are intelligent about trying to get the word out, then it'll be much easier, and it'll catch on, and your audience will help you because they see what you're doing is grassroots, and you don't have a big machine behind you. So it's a really long answer to your question. But I guess the biggest challenge would be just finding an audience. Okay, number 4. One ordinary life. If you had the opportunity to hire developers to craft a sequel for any game you've ever played, what game would that be? That's a good question. I said that on everyone. That's a good question. I'm going to stop that now. Okay. Okay. So I guess in other interviews, if anybody knew that about me, I was obsessed with the Ultima games. In fact, I used to write poetry about the Ultima games. I believe I have a sonnet that I wrote when I was about 14, dedicated to the Black Gate. It's perfectly scans in the AB format, and it's one day I'll release like Jewel. I'll release my poems, and nobody will probably want to read them. So I was obsessed with Ultima, and I just loved the world, and I loved stealing things from people out of their chest of drawers, and I would love to see an updated version of the Ultima series, like because I feel like it's very rich, the story, and there's a lot to be mined there, and also the characters were so well written. I wanted to date Dupre. I'm sorry. So that would be one that I definitely want to see updated. And then my other favorite game, which a lot of people probably didn't play, was Scape Torment, where you played kind of a jerk. Yeah, and I don't normally role play evil when I play role playing games, but this one was so rich in that you could really be a nuanced sort of gray line character, and you had amnesia, and I don't need to summarize them. But there was basically you go through the whole game only using dialogue and not really fighting at all, which it was so deep and so rich and such an interesting, unique world that I think that could definitely do for an updating. And as long as we could play a girl, because I believe that you can only play a guy in that, which I like being a girl. Number 5, Ugly Josh. It's not a very... I feel sorry for you. Why would you name yourself that? I'm sure you're not. The Guild is said to be partly based on your past WoW addiction. Are any of the characters on the show based on people you actually used to play with? Also, why weren't the people in my guild nearly that interesting? I don't know. I can't explain. I mean, I can't help you there. So I was very careful not to construct characters that were a copy of people, because that's illegal. But I would say that there is one character that's a little bit close to somebody, and I hate to, and that would be Tinkerballa. Because when I used to play WoW, when I had my bad addiction, I still play. I haven't played in a couple months because I'm so busy, but when I used to play, we would do 40-man raids, and we had several small guilds that would do coalition guild, because how do you get 40 people on? I mean, in retrospect, it was ridiculous, 40 people. So we would have guilds that would join, and we had a guild raid leader who was a really pretty Asian girl, but she was so mean to people. And, she's a lovely person, but for some reason, running 40 people turned you crazy. So she was so adorable when I met her finally. I was like, this is hilarious. Like, she is a ball buster. And she runs this raid, and she's adorable. So I guess, there aren't really story points, but just the idea of this adorable ball-busting Asian girl was inspired by her. And you can actually see her in one of the season 1 episodes as an extra. And she's a good friend of mine still, and I don't think she plays well anymore. But so other than that, when I created the characters for the guild, I obviously created Codex for me because I wanted to play like kind of a shy, introverted, sort of neurotic girl, because I thought that's kind of close to part of me, at least. And the rest of them, I just wanted to create characters. So for Vork and Zabu, I created those characters just for those guys because we do improv comedy together. And whenever I got on stage with those guys, I would just crack up. Like, I would be so unprofessional. And I would just laugh the whole time, which is not what you're supposed to do, and improv is supposed to be in the moment. But they would crack me up so hard that I was like, I have to have them in anything I do. So that's how we got those. And then the other characters were just like, well, what kind of other people have I played with that would be represented here? And to me, I think that more girls game than are perceived. Like, this was three years ago that I even wrote the script. So then people were like, I don't understand, how can people talk to each other online? I mean, even now people think it's a little odd that you game online in a mainstream, but it was even less mainstreamly understood back then. So, but in my experience, I have gamed with a lot of girls, and maybe that's because I seek them out. But at the same time, in all the online, like Puzzle Pirates, I had an all-girl guild, and it was just completely, coincidental. So I definitely wanted to have a mom in there, and just the experience of having somebody have a kid yelling in the background inspired that, not any negligent mothers. And of course, Blades is like, you gotta have that guy. I mean, what a douchebag. So, yeah, that's how I came up with the characters. And I would say that there's a lot of people who play online games who are very interesting. It's just, you just have to find the right guild. That's my answer. Okay. Number 6, Smoke Serpent. Now that you've had a good taste of both styles of work, when you're acting in someone else's production, do you feel more relieved that you don't have to be involved in writing, production, and editing, or more freaked out that you can't? That's really interesting, because I just did a movie for the Sci-Fi Network called Red. It's a modern adaptation of Red Riding Hood, and basically I run around with a gun in modern times and kick people in the face, so that was fun. It did make me appreciate the fact that I do juggle a lot of things, and I didn't appreciate that, and it does affect, my doing a little bit of everything is what I personally love doing, because, I love acting, I love having my words read out loud and having actors make them, funnier than they would have been otherwise just on the page. I love putting people together to make a production. When you're doing a film, you have so many different people with so many specialties. And just the idea of bringing them together and making a family to make something together and everybody contributing their vision to it is just immensely gratifying to me. And it's kind of like rating. It really is. Your druid's going to fill this role and whatever. So I definitely felt the shift, but I also appreciated being acting every day for like 4 weeks only. I appreciated acting more. Because a lot of people just think, oh, you go up there and you just act, but acting is a lot more nuanced than that, and the business of acting gets in the way of just the pure expression of being a character, because as an LA actor, your job is to audition, and 99% of the things you go out to audition for, you're not going to get. So you kind of like look at material for a day, you go in and read it for them, they reject you because they don't like, whatever. And you're done with that character. But the privilege of living in a character and really, embodying somebody else, it did make me rediscover my love of doing that and respect anew the whole craft of acting. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. And I did, it is funny because when I'm on the guild, I do know that at the end of the day, I will see the edit and will be in control of if my face looks really weird or not. Not that I do that, but only a little. But in filmmaking, as an actor, you don't have control over so many levels. You have to trust other people because they're more objective. But at the same time, they may have a vision that's different than what you want to put on screen. And you realize that acting is kind of, you're never going to guarantee that what you want to do is going to end up on the screen. That's why it's more of a director's, medium versus like acting on stage. You're in complete control of your character and what happens with it. So it's just two sides of the coin. I definitely enjoy doing a little bit of everything, even if I'm not perfect at any of it. Number 7, Joey Joe Jr. Joey Joe Jr. Joey Joe Jr. Do you get much fan mail? What's the weirdest thing you ever received? Oh, okay. Well, I used to get more fan mail, but now the way I operate is like, I'm on Twitter. Like, you can Twitter at me and you can say anything to me, which I think is really cool. Sometimes I can't keep up with it all, but at the end of the day, like, there's just kind of a direct conduit between me and whoever likes my stuff, which is something I enjoy. It gets overwhelming at it sometimes, but I just really enjoy that because people, it's less of a removal. Like, you don't tend to like romanticize what people do as much. It's really people can see that what I do every day is work. It's literally my job, and I don't go out, so I'm usually working. So when my most exciting encounter with people are at conventions, because that's where I really like doing them. We'll have a booth or I'll be a guest somewhere, and people will come up and not only tell stories about how they discovered my show, or most gratifyingly, if they say, hey, because of what you do, I've started painting again, or I'm writing again. And honestly, I don't mean to be cheesy, but that really means a lot to me. That means that, it's not just about me, which makes me, feel like I'm giving back to people, because I was in a place where I wasn't doing what I liked, and I discovered how to do something and channel all that frustration into art. And if, I'm helping other people, that's awesome. But so people do give me stuff at conventions. Most recently, the weirdest thing I got was a fan gave me a cat bed made out of a computer monitor, and I couldn't bring it, but it's hand painted, and he hand sewed the bed for my cat, because I was talking about my cats at a convention, which was, it's large, but it's it's beautiful. It's a creative expression. I did bring a couple of things though. I guess the weirdest stuff is people giving you stuff that looks like you. Let's see. Yeah, so I have a couple of things that people actually gave me at conventions, and I guess the weirdest thing is when I look like. They give you something that you look like. So here's a felt version of myself, which really, I don't know why I really like this. I feel like I don't know how I would make this. My cats and dogs shed a lot, so maybe I could one day form what they shed every day into something like this. But this is really, I don't know if you can see that. It's very well, and the coolest thing about this is that the woman gave me a ninja with it. So I'm like, I don't understand how these go together, but I like the idea that it's just me and a ninja. I kind of want to do a web series about me and my ninja. So that would be one thing. And then I got this awesome set of Legos that somebody made for Dr. Horrible. So this is not just, one set. This is like everybody. So here's Captain Hammer. He's got his pompadour on. And this is all hand painted, by the way. Here's Moist. So that looks just like Simon, kind of. He's even got like a New Jersey State t-shirt on. All right, and then we have Dr. Horrible, and he's got a clipboard, and this is paper that was made out of here, and this looks like Neil, and then the glasses even. I think that's awesome. And then here's me, and what I appreciate about this especially is that they gave me a waistline. So whoever made this, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the person. They really, people should sign these things. They put this graphic on it and gave me a waist, and I appreciate it because I don't want to be blocky. And the hair goes in the back, and I just think it's so awesome. So I have these propped up next to all the awards I've gotten for the guild, because I feel like this is just as cool as any award that some fancy person gives me. So Yeah, that's a really long answer to your question. Where is that ninja? Gosh. Okay, number 8. Kaluka. Has anyone really far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like? Has anyone really... What? 9. Lord Morbus. Quite recently, there has been a fair amount of discussion on sexism, or the lack of sexism, toward female gamers. As a female gamer yourself, what has your experience been while online, in the past or in the present? I have not had any encounter that I felt was really rude or disrespectful myself. I know that other girls I know, or women I know gaming, have had not that experience. They've actually been in situations where guys were really skeevy and obnoxious about girls being gamers. I think that it's there's a perception there, and from non-gamers, but as well as gamers, that girls are some anomaly, that they don't they don't game. And I think that from what I've experienced, especially at conventions and online, and seeing girls who really game, that they exist, and that it's just not, they weren't as vocal, and they're not as part of the community, the gaming mainstream community. And that's why I like Reddit, actually, because there seems to be a really vocal, female and girl, a lot of women participating in the community in that way. And what I would like to see is more women participating in the gamer community like that, because that will break all those stereotypes that that we have, that girls are either they're incredibly hot and they're playing over their breast implants, or they're a mom and they're playing they're only playing flash games in Farmville. And I think that there are both of those extremes. But I would say that the majority are in the middle. They're just like me. They're kind of geeky girls who enjoy gaming of all kinds. Like I guess I'm a stereotypical girl. I don't play a lot of the war games, but I really I got into Left 4 Dead after never thinking that I would like playing an FPS game, and I love killing things. I love the fact that when I chainsaw in a circle, I could feel body parts. I love that, and that makes me want to try other games out. Like, I started from a role-playing perspective, but venturing into other places, it's all the same, and I think a lot of women enjoy gaming, and there's nothing more gratifying than when I go to a convention and I hear women come up to me and say, hey, I just started playing games because of you. I started WoW, or I got a Dragon Age, or I started playing Left 4 Dead with my boyfriend. Or when guys come up to me and say, hey, the first time I ever got my wife to sit next to me was watching Guild episodes on Xbox, and then I got an entry-level game, and they're like, what's an entry-level game we can play together? So I think gaming is becoming a lot more mainstream in that sense, and when people become bored with television and they want to do something a little more interactive, and that's why I will always pick on a Friday night playing a game versus watching a movie or going out with friends. That's a whole other issue. Number 10, MT Travis. What is one question you haven't been asked in an interview before that you wish you would have been asked, and what is your answer to that question? I would just say, I would try to be clever. I would try to be clever and say, the one question I haven't been asked in an interview is the question that, what is it, one question that you haven't been asked in an interview? And I would be in a recursive loop for the rest of my life on Reddit. So that would be stupid. I guess, unfortunately, I've been asked a lot of questions, and I feel like the well is dry for Felicia Day. But I guess, and I actually did see a couple questions in the thread about this, about how dealing with the fact, dealing with just being somebody who works every day, and then going to somebody who is recognized, in a sense. Like, the whole idea and concept of fame, I think, is an interesting one, because I think a lot of people in society today look at fame as some sort of like magic wand that's going to fix their problems and their self-esteem. And I know, I would admit, as a person, when I first moved to LA, I'm sure I love acting, but I'm sure there was more than a big portion of wanting recognition as a motivation to being an actor. Like, a lot of people think that fame is going to solve their problems. And I think just my small sampling of it, like, thank goodness, when I walk down the street, most people don't know who I am. And it's usually more situationally, because I have friends who are very famous, and that's the situation where everybody is turning and watching you and trying to eavesdrop, and it's not a good feeling. And at the same time, there is sort of for me at least, an obligation to always be outdoing yourself and be always not wanting to lose that sense that strangers are interested in what you want to do. So it sets the bar very high, and it makes the work, and I could feel it, like it's always, you have to check in, like, am I doing the work for the right reason? Am I trying to please other people and like satisfy, the people who like what I do, or am I trying to really create the things that I would without all that extraneous stuff? And I don't know if this is kind of a rambly answer, but I would just say that just make sure, because I do know people who are actors and singers, and they do get to that point, and then they're still unhappy. And I think it's because in the end of the day, if they were an actor or a singer just in the middle of the country, like Des Moines, and they were just acting every day, but they had no recognition, would they be happy? Is it really what they want to do with your life? So I would say, that's something that you should always check in with. Like, is this something I would just do for free? And the thing about the Guild is I did it for 2 years for free, and I enjoy every single minute of it, and I wouldn't trade anything else. And coming to that after just acting and feeling very unfulfilled, only acting for many, many years, was sort of an answer to that question: am I doing the right thing with my life? So, I guess fame is not something to set out for. If it's a byproduct of what you do and what you love, then yeah, that's cool. Only if you're at a party and you don't have to stand in the corner like you usually do, which I would have done before. So now I guess that's the one thing about being recognized, is that I'm not the lonely person in the corner of the party most of the time. Okay, so I had a question that they asked me to ask you, Reddit, and it was really hard to come up with a question because I think like Chomsky went before me. I'm like, really? Am I? And I was intimidated, to be honest with you. And my producer, actually, we were working, and I was like, I can't think of this question, but I want to kind of do something that will help people versus like something jokey, because the shelf life of something jokey is not long. So I came up with the idea to ask. I was, because I wrote the Guild because I had a very bad WoW addiction, like 9 hours a day. And I love WoW, and I don't mean to be like, I still play casually, but I was gaming to fill something in my life that I didn't have, which was doing something every day that I really liked. And I was able to take the experience that I had and create something out of it. And even if nobody else had ever watched the Guild, I would have been so gratified that I was able to channel that. And that's so I turned the question into for you guys. What's something you've experienced in your life that was negative, and you've now turned into a positive? And that's it was simple, but the answers I got were so touching. Like, I did actually cry on reading a couple of them, because, and that's what I love about the Reddit community, really, because you will have all these funny, animated GIFs and all that stuff, but then somebody will ask a question that they would obviously never ask somebody in real life, and the anonymity actually creates a better community than if you knew people in face-to-face. And I think that's kind of the thing about the internet that people don't understand. Like, yes, being anonymous can be destructive at the end of the day, and allow people to behave badly. But people will behave badly face-to-face as well. The thing about the internet is that it does bring people together and sheds light on the things that we might not be forthcoming about, because it's hard to bare your soul, in a sense. And everybody can't afford therapy. So, I was touched. I mean, there are some stories here about people overcoming, child abuse. There's Jack Hack 212. Jack Hack tells an amazing story about being homeless and walking 20 miles to be able to do the GED, and the fact that he was able to put himself through college and is now in law school completely against every single odd. And now he's like mentoring his siblings to try to help them so they don't have to go through the struggles that he did. And you just think, like, how brave you have to be able to get up and do that when people are telling you no at every single turn. And I just have to say that was such an inspiring story. And from all the comments afterwards, obviously it touched. I mean, it's at 1,712 points. It's just an amazing story, and Actually, you should probably be doing a question to the community rather than me. So that's beautiful. And then, that's one of the larger stories that seem to really touch other people's admiration. But, that's something that is so large. And then you go down to somebody like Feverant. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Who his car broke down, and then he had to, basically borrowed a bike, and it was only biking to school. And now that's, he just did a competition, and that's a part of his life now, and it obviously means a lot to him. And it's a small thing, but it changed his lifestyle, and he feels fulfilled about it. So that's another kind of inspiring, that small things can really affect. You don't have to have monumental changes, but you just take the small challenges in life, and you can turn them into something that can change your life forever. And there was another one I just wanted to point out, because I particularly was inspired by it, only because I kind of want to see the work that she does. Let me see. Sorry, just hold on. Steinspinner. And basically, she was in a horrible abusive relationship with a guy, and she got sent to jail. And then that experience led her to turn her life around. So now, instead of delivering pizza, she is working for a casting computer she's making war game miniatures, and she's getting a metal smithing degree and making in jewelry, and quit smoking, and just basically transform her life. And you just think about an experience where you're in a horrible relationship and you get sent to jail, how low, you feel like completely the world is against you. And rather than, sitting there and letting that spiral you even deeper, there's only one way to go, and then it's up. And I feel like that was such an inspiring story. And it just shows everybody that making mistakes is better than always having successes. I had a 4.0 in college, and I literally had no life. I started when I was 16, so this is a really long. I'm going to tell you the story. I started when I was 16, so I was younger than everybody, and I was homeschooled, so I was kind of already, withdrawn anyway. And so I didn't get any kind of college experience, because even when I was sort of in college for several years, I didn't realize that you could get a B and it would be cool. So I actually had a group theory class, and I got a 27 on the test. And my professor sat me down and was like, Felicia, you're very talented and you're a very good mathematician, and you work very hard, but listen, just get a B and you're going to be much happier with the rest of your college career, because it will take such a load off you. And I was so pissed off that he told me that I was like, no way, I'm going to get and I literally just studied 9 hours a day just to get the A in this class, and I had no summer other than this class. And it was so, in retrospect, I really should have gotten a B, because at the end of the day, I had this diploma, and I had this number arbitrarily on that, but the life experiences that I passed up because of it, and I'm not telling you guys go out and flunk, but I'm just telling you that perfection is maybe not something to strive for as much as just getting the experience and the value out of the time that you spend. God, I really wish I had gotten a lot more B's, and it would have taken the pressure off, because I never learned anything from those A's, but I learned a lot more when I crashed and burned, and did things wrong, and I could improve on it. So, boy, I'm a long-winded person. Anyway, thank you for your very insightful answers, and hopefully people reading through these will be inspired to maybe do the same thing.